Hello there.
So, sorry about that. I was getting ready and my doorbell rang and it was somebody running for local mayor of my town.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I had to go ahead and click live. So we are live right now. Otherwise, I was going to lose the feed. So if you can, just bear with me 1 second and I'll go ahead and get this started and I'll properly introduce you.
Oh, sure.
No worries. We are, looks like we already have Wade Forbes here saying, "I'm here, looking forward to the conversation." So we're going. It looks like Steve Ferreira wants to watch, and some other friends here. So if you can bear with me, I'll go ahead and get this thing going, and we'll just jump into it and have fun. We can talk about what the mayor had to say. Okay, bear with me 1 second, and I'll get started. Okay. So we are live right now. It is live with Bottleneck here. I'm going to be talking with a good friend of mine, Forbes contributor, author, just an amazing human being, Elaine Pofeldt. And we'll get started here in about 38 seconds. So stay tuned. Well, hello there. My name is Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck, Distant Assistance, and together I am so looking forward to this. I get to introduce you to the one and only Elaine Pofeldt. That has just been my life has only gotten better since I've gotten to know her over, I think, the past couple years actually, and she's incredibly gifted, super smart, one of the most kind hearts you'll ever meet, I'm excited because we're going to be talking today about the $1 Million one-person business. Her name is Elaine Pofeldt. She's a journalist at Elaine Pofeldt. And why can Elaine help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, Elaine is an independent journalist who specializes in small business, entrepreneurship, and careers. She is the author of the $1 Million One-Person Business. A look at how entrepreneurs are hitting seven-figure revenue in businesses where they're the only employee. And this was published by Random House. She's writing a new book, Tiny Business, Big Money, for Norton Co. It's coming out in September of 2022. Her work has appeared in Fortune, Money, CNBC, Inc., Forbes, Crain's New York Business, and many other business publications, and she is contributor to the Economist Intelligence Unit. She's also a ghostwriter. As a senior editor of Fortune Small Business, where she worked for 8 years, Elaine was twice nominated for the National Magazine Award for her features and ran the magazine's annual business plan completion. Elaine graduated from Yale University with a BA, bachelor's degree in English. She lives in New Jersey with her husband and their 4 children. In her free time, she enjoys Taekwondo, yoga, and running. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you to Elaine Pofeldt. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, Jamie. Thank you so much for that very nice introduction. You're so kind, and I feel the same. My life has only gotten better since I met you. Folks who are listening should know that Jamie is one of the new case studies in the updated version of the $1 Million One-Person Business, which
I'm so excited.
in January, and it was such a pleasure to write about Jamie. One thing that I found really interesting, I profiled him when his business was a mid-six-figure business. And then I forget why we were chatting. I think I was asking him for advice about podcasting. And he said, Elaine, those businesses that you write about, I've become one. And you have so many great lessons to share about how to build a service business that's a 7-figure business. So I really should be interviewing you, Jamie.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I have to tell you, it's been a blessing getting to know you and reading your articles, and I mean, humbly honored everything for you to take the time to write an article. I think maybe 2 articles on what we're doing here. It's just been a blessing, and I can't thank you enough. And I'm really happy to have you on today, because I really want to talk about that and maybe dive into a little bit deeper about the $1 million one-person business, because right now with COVID and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people have been affected by it. And before I kind of dive into that, I wonder if maybe for I don't know how they wouldn't know you, but maybe for those people that don't know you, can give a little bit of who you are and background, and then kind of jump into what you're working on now.
Oh, sure. Well, I've been a freelancer since 2007, but I was a corporate person before that. I worked at Time Inc. And before that, pretty much worked in steady jobs all my life, even in media. And it was when I had the first 3 of my 4 children that I transitioned into having my own business. And I never looked back. And I'm actually finding it more relevant than ever to have a very small business, because it really is a much more nimble way to run your career than having a job these days. I think one great thing we've seen from the pandemic is how many big businesses, have adapted and gone to more remote ways of working. They've really risen to the occasion with digital transformation and been very flexible with the schools closed and that sort of thing. But at the same time, there's no substitute for the flexibility of having your own business, because you have total control of your time, where you work, when you work. And when you have a lot of new demands on your time, you really need that flexibility. Doesn't mean you need less income, but you need more flexibility. And I was thinking today, because I'm a caregiver. I have 4 kids in the house. They're doing online school right now in the background of everything that I'm doing. What a blessing that is, to have this business and not have to worry that, my company is going back into the office in New York City. I don't want to get on the train yet. Driving in is difficult. What are my kids going to do if I'm not here? Will they do the online school? My son is too little. All the concerns that people have when you have your own business. There are hassles to having your own business too, as you and I both know, but they pale by comparison to the stress of not having control of your own career.
Yeah, that flexibility that you mentioned, that's a huge bonus. Like even today, my wife works with me, and she's out back with her mom. And they're rebuilding a little storage hut, in the backyard there. And we wouldn't have that flexibility if she had to be going into work somewhere and reporting for duty and doing all of that kind of stuff. So it's a good balance. She made sure she finished everything she needed to do this morning before she actually went out there. But now she gets to spend quality time with her mom. She's having fun. It's nice weather outside. And it's just, that's I think, one of the biggest benefits of having your own business.
Oh, it's so nice when you can seize the moment, because you planned your day that way. Like this morning, I love hot yoga. And my studio opened up, but it's under very heavy protocols, the mask.
Oh.
Try doing hot yoga in a 90-degree room with a mask.
Try doing hot yoga, period.
You know how much I love going there. So, but I go every morning. I have to get there by 6 o'clock, actually a little bit before, because the class starts at 6 and they take your temperature. But that's one of the nice things of not having a commute, because if I had to jump on a train at 8, I'd never be able to make that work. And this is with having the 4 kids and everything else and the school in the background. I still can do that. And I don't think you have enough margin in terms of time when you have a traditional job, unless it's extremely flexible. So that is such a nice part of it, whether you have children or not, just being able to decide what's important to you and what you love, and then carve out the time. And as long as you get your projects in, who really cares, right?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm the biggest fan. There are the challenges, and some of these challenges that single, one-person businesses face a lot of time. And there's sometimes there's stress. We may not have employees, but we have vendors that we work with. We have clients that are looking to get that service or that product delivered in a timely manner, and high expectations. So there's some stress around that. added to that the experience that I don't know how you've been going through COVID, but for us here in the household, my wife and I actually contracted the COVID virus, and we were, and unfortunately, that's why we had to cancel our first conversation with you, because I couldn't even walk. Like I was down, but because we had the systems and processes in place, the company still ran, and we were still able to deliver. But it wasn't without its challenges, right? And I wonder.
Now, how are you feeling now? Are you feeling better? Or?
I'm feeling amazing. And according to Greene County, I live here in Springfield, Missouri, but according to Greene County, I'm not contagious for, I guess, another year is what they've said. And I don't know, it's still kind of new. So is that true? Is it not true? I don't know, but I finally got my energy back. I'm starting to exercise a little bit. The chest is a little, boy, I lost 22 pounds in 10 days.
Oh my goodness. You must have been very sick.
Oh, it was brutal. My poor wife, she got sick about 3 or 4 days before I did. And then there she is taking care of me. Like, she's amazing. But she recovered. She's doing really well. She's outside working around, and I'm doing a lot better now. It took a while, a couple weeks to get over it, but so glad we're over it.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that you had it. There have been these outbreaks in different states. It seems like we're getting into another season where more people are catching it. What a year, right? 2020. Nobody will ever forget this year. Yeah. I think it's causing a lot of us to just think about what's important, and making the most of every day and keeping in touch with the people that we really care about, because we've had to make choices, in terms of, if we're going to have contact in only certain situations or only with certain people, what really matters most to us. And, it's very interesting, I think, if we all look at our own lives. And I think some of those things that we're thinking about have to do with work, am I doing my right work? And does it serve my whole life and how I want to live? And so many opportunities to think more deeply about our lives and what matters.
Yeah.
And what you said about the having the systems in place, that was one of the key lessons I took from you about your business, was that you did put systems in place so that it wasn't only you who could do the work. And it takes a lot of thinking to do that. I know you put a lot of thought into that. So that every single system had a right way of doing it, and your team could course correct if the systems weren't working right. And now you're seeing some of the payoff in that your business didn't go down when you were sick.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think, and the other thing that I have to keep in mind too is when I create a system or a process, or I shouldn't say I, because in essence, it's a lot of people that are involved in this, but when a system's put in place, it's not done. I consider a system, a process, a workflow, a living, breathing element of our business that continually needs attention, much like raising a child, or having a relationship with somebody. You have to keep putting into it in order for it to do the best for you that's possible. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned. It's not one of those things, set it and forget it.
No, I think you're right about that. And the living, breathing is, you do have the extended team of people, your virtual assistants, who are part of it, and you're tapping into their brain power and their experience too. So that's what makes the system so good, because it is a little daunting. I think there are a lot of people that don't see themselves as systems thinkers. They just like to do their creative thing, whatever it is in the business, or maybe it's not a non-creative thing, but they're accountants or something like that, it's a logical type thing, but they don't know how to put systems in place in a business. But you kind of learned as you went along, and then you wound up getting input from your team. And I thought that's a great lesson. I actually want to apply it in my own business, because that way you can bring on more people to help you all the time, so that you're not doing so much work in the business and working on it.
Oh man! Oh my gosh! Yes, I think there's two things that systems are really good for. First and foremost is organization, being able to understand what's expected of each role, what the responsibilities are, what the deliverables are. How do we do? Like when we finish something, there's a signal that this particular task is done. everybody knows that, and that's been really, really helpful. The other thing that you tend to think about too is it's okay to build a business, in my opinion, where you make yourself replaceable. And what I mean by that is, do I want to do this the rest of my life? I don't know. I don't know yet. But what happens if there comes a point in time where I might be able to maybe exit, maybe sell it, or maybe reduce the amount of time that I'm spending in this business? If I don't have the systems and processes in place, it's going to make me being here very important with regards to that transition. Whereas if I have the systems and processes and the workflows in place, it really makes me replaceable to where I don't need to be here.
Oh, that is so smart, because that way your business becomes an asset that you can sell. That was one of the interesting things when I updated the book. I had to go back to the entrepreneurs and ask them, where are they with the business? And some of them had sold the business, and the ones who sold it did have really good systems in place. One entrepreneur, he had a business called Science of Skill, and what he did was, it was an e-commerce store focused on martial arts. And he wound up bringing on, right before the sale, one full-timer and one part-timer to kind of test the systems and run the business without him in it,
great idea.
so that he could actually sell it to other people with confidence that, they would know that they could run it. And a group of software entrepreneurs purchased it.
Wow.
And then he went on to start another business that's focused on AI.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that artificial intelligence, would you have a minute to talk about AI? Are you into that at all?
I'm very interested in it. I'm interested in things that, there's a lot of different areas. Tell me what you want to talk about, and then we can get into it.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because the reason we changed our name from Bottleneck Virtual Assistants to Bottleneck Distant Assistants is, and we are the world's first dedicated distant assistant company. And I really am excited about that, because if you Google virtual assistants, or you do the Google alerts, and I have a Google alert set up for virtual assistants, it's all AI. It's all transactional based, meaning a lot of the bots, the artificial intelligent assistants, that's a really big thing. I would say it, but I have one here. It rhymes with Texa. That's all AI, machine learning. And I want people to be able to understand that we're different than that. That's not us. We're not transactional based. We're intimate based. We're relationship based, as far as it's a real person, a real human being that's going to be there for you for a long time, not just a short amount of time, and it's not a bot. And so I had a really big challenge with AI in particular, because I don't necessarily know if we're there yet, because for me, artificial intelligence encapsulates context, that doesn't have that context, I should say. So when something's being performed, it's through machine learning, in my opinion. And so I talked with a gentleman the other day who wrote this book, Own the AI Revolution. His name is Neil Sahota, and he is the AI advisor to the UN. And so he was on the IBM Watson team. He really knows this stuff, but he's about AI for good, because I'm thinking, man, is this going to replace jobs? Is this going to start, I've started getting, feeling a little bit challenged about what people were throwing around as AI. So it didn't really sit well with me until after that conversation. There's a lot of things, in my opinion, I still refer to it as machine learning, that are really helpful for us. And I could go into stories about where I think it's helpful there, but that's kind of where I had a challenge with AI, and I thought, man, and I think a lot of other people do too, is it going to take away jobs? Are these machines going to come in and take over,
I don't know. I'm an optimist, and I think every time something replaces people, then new jobs spring up around that. And it just seems like there's sort of an ecosystem where it's self-healing. So there might be some disruption in that people get used to certain jobs and they like having them. And I'm the same way, right? Whatever you do, you try to hang on to it. But sometimes the world changes. And if you adapt, you actually discover you have a whole new set of skills, or the old skills that you used in a job are very applicable to other things that are evolving.
Mm.
It makes you a more creative person. You'll probably try things that you never would have done before just because you're forced to. We've all been in those situations, right? Like where like someone just pushes us in the swimming pool and all of a sudden you can swim. And it's painful and it's hard. And I don't make little of people losing jobs, because so many people are out of work right now. And it's really very, very stressful when someone loses a job. It's just life altering. But I hope that there will be some positive that comes out of that, in that people will discover new skills. They'll reach out to their support networks and deepen their relationships with other people. They'll think about maybe some skills that they used in previous jobs that they haven't used for a while and dust them off and consider trying things they haven't done in a while. I do think it can be an opportunity for rebirth for people. And I see that with the one-person business. A lot of people that I've interviewed, not just the $1 million one-person businesses, but all one-person businesses, lost their job before they started it, or they were in a job that the writing was on the wall, their boss didn't like them, or they knew, whatever they were doing would be disrupted, whatever it may be. They were kind of forced out of it. And then they started these one-person businesses and were much better off for it. And now would never go back. If you look at every survey of small business owners, and the vast majority have one-person businesses, they love the autonomy. They love the freedom. They wouldn't go back. There's always the reluctant freelancers who find they don't like it, but that's true with anything you do, right? People think it's going to be one thing and it's not. But it's pretty amazing how many like it and stick with it. And then you look at the younger generations. Gen Z is the most heavily represented in freelancing. I just saw a survey, I think it was from Upwork, about 50% of that generation has done some freelancing.
Holy cow.
It's completely different from older generations. They're just so in tune with how to do that type of work. And when you already have that skill, there's so many opportunities available to you. And it's one of these things where people can learn it from their kids or younger cousins or people like that, just how do you get into these things? But it could really be a nice path forward for a lot of people that are finding that the conventional workplace really doesn't want them anymore because they've topped out in salary because of age discrimination. Those things are really not fair, but they're a very widespread phenomenon. And why not take control of your life and create your own career and not be dependent on the system that is designed to phase everybody out, no matter how good they are, at a certain point, because they're no longer cost effective for that business model. I mean, it really is a numbers game. Even though you put your heart and soul into your work and you love the people you work with, there's a bean counter somewhere in the company, who one day is going to decide it's too expensive to keep you in many, many companies. So it's good to have it as a plan B. And as you get older, you may want to do some things you never had time to do anyway. Maybe you want to travel more or see friends more or garden more, or whatever it is. Having a business allows you more freedom to do that.
I love that. I love what you said with regard. Just a couple. I think it was last week. I spoke with a young entrepreneur, 20 years old, I believe, and he's done millions of dollars in real estate.
Wow, that's cool.
And I said, "You're so young. Like, why would someone work with you?" And he goes, "That's the biggest question I get. Like, why would they ever work with me? I've never bought a home. I don't, that." He goes, "So I tell them I'm young. I know social media. I can get your house out there. Like, I know what to do, And I said, all these people clamor to, and he just, a Gen Zer, just killing it, doing a great job. So what you said, yes, is 100% correct. And I took my hat off to him for being so young and just going after it and doing so well with what he's doing. But you're exactly right. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years old or 60 years old or 45 years old. I think it's really important to have your own things so that you can have your flexibility. Now, getting there, starting it up, that's a whole nother story. But my wife and I take off every Friday at 11 to go play hockey.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
And we absolutely love it. But that keeps our sanity. Like, that's exercise. And that gets, we've done this. We call it Hockey Friday. And we've done it for the past 4.5, 5 years. Every single Friday, everybody knows I'm gone at 11 o'clock to go play hockey with my wife. And it's so refreshing.
Well, life is meant to be lived. And
Yes.
and if that's your favorite thing to do, why not? Why can't you take Friday off? But you wouldn't be allowed to in a lot of jobs.
I wouldn't have a job. You're fired.
I love what you said about the younger entrepreneurs. I mean, one of the things I've noticed is I'm hearing from more $1 million one-person businesses who are really young. I heard from one who was 15, and I was cracking up. I thought, wow. But the truth is that every generation has different ways of interacting with technology. I see this with my own kids, where my 10-year-old son, he talks to his devices. My older daughters, they're twins, they're 16 years old. They don't talk to their device. They still type into it. And that's just in the same family, not that far apart.
Wow.
And so that shapes how they work too. And when you think about it, I mean, there's so much we can learn from newer generations that have grown up doing all kinds of digital things. There was one woman I wrote about, Anna Gavia, who started Pink Colada. It's a bikini company. And she was a medical school student in her 20s. And she decided she wanted to do a fashion brand. She was good at sketching, but she only had $200. She was not able to afford enough material to do a sample of a dress. So she did a bikini, and she found this little factory that said that they would do a small run for her if she could get some orders. So she had the factory create one sample. She took a picture of it, put it on Instagram, and just asked people if they would buy this. And she got a whole bunch of pre-orders. I think it was like 1,000 pre-orders.
Oh my gosh.
Back to the factory, and she manufactured it using the money that people paid her in advance. And that became this multi-million-dollar business. She built it as a $1 million one-person business, but now she has a team. And I thought, that took a lot of guts, right? Because an older person would probably think, oh my goodness, like, what if the factory is no good? What if I get the orders and I can't fulfill them or whatever? But she just sort of did it on the fly and just rolled with it. And there's a good lesson in that, just trying things and just moving fast. I think
there's something to be said for naivete.
But she a lot by just like not having that fear. And I think we can let go of that a little bit and want to accomplish more and learn from people that are not afraid. And it's true, being young, you don't know what can happen. But really, what would have happened? The worst that would have happened is somehow she wouldn't have fulfilled the orders and she would have to send the money back. But that's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It was kind of neat too. His name is Peyton. This is a wonderful little kid. I'm friends with his parents. And the first time I met him, it was 8 years ago. He was 12, right? So, like, wow. And to see where he's, what he's grown into is pretty neat. And he said one of the neat things is, he's like, you know what? Me being this old, I'm not married. I don't have a home. I don't do this. I don't have all these overheads. So I can take a little bit more of a chance since it's just me than someone that, is married and has the family and all of that. And to his point, yeah, sure. That's, it makes it a little bit easier for someone young. But I don't know about you, but when I was 20, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea.
Well, it's true that younger people, they don't have the overhead and the responsibilities, but I do see there are a lot of people that have a lot of responsibility that still are able to start businesses. They just do it on the side. The whole side hustle movement has given way to a lot of full-time businesses. And it's really the best. If you don't have spousal income or partner's income coming in to pay the bills, you need some way to create runway for yourself so that you can let the business run its course, right? I always look at restaurants, and you see them close prematurely because the owners think that it's going to take off in 3 months, but it really might take 6 to 9 months. and they just don't have the cash reserves to make it through that slow period in the beginning when no one knows about them. And it's true for a lot of businesses, but if you have other income coming in, then there isn't so much pressure. And you'll eventually reach this point where you know you can pay your bills on what's coming out of the business, and then you can really take the leap with confidence. And it's almost always the best way for people. I know in Silicon Valley, it's kind of, go all in and, you should just live and breathe your startup. But that only really works for 22-year-olds, whose
Yeah.
parents bail them out. It doesn't work for most of the world, but it doesn't mean other people can't create startups too.
Yeah.
Actually, for a lot of 22-year-olds who have student loan debt and that sort of thing, that's kind of out of reach too, because
That's true.
they have a heavy burden with that. But you can always do it on the side. The key is really finding something that you enjoy so much that you don't feel like it's work. Like what you do, I know you love what you do. You would do it for free probably. And I feel the same about what I
have
do.
before. And so it doesn't go well with my wife.
Well, it's not ideal for running a business, but you really need that to get through life, right? You don't want to wake up every day and do stuff you hate. Sometimes you have to pay the bills, but you want a certain percentage of your work to be stuff you're passionate about.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if there's ever anything I might be able to add on top of that, is that it's something you're passionate about, but something where you can positively impact someone else's life. Not only their business, because you want their business to get better and stuff like that, but what are they going to do if they're successful? They're going to go spend money in their community. They're going to go spend time with their families. They're going to, build a nice life, and they're going to end up giving something positive to someone else. And when they spend money at that local grocery store or whatever, that's the local community's doing better. And that's what really drives us here, is that if we can help somebody build their business, create systems and processes so that they can grow and stop doing the work and focusing on the wrong things. Instead, focus on doing your best work. That's our provocative point of view. We absolutely love that. If we can help somebody start doing that, become more productive, more creative, man, what a better world we'll be in.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you're talking about the human side of business too. Like, what is the difference between AI and your company? It's because there's real people there. And part of running a business is connecting with the people that you serve, bringing them relief from whatever stress they have that brought them to you. I know when I have my bookkeeper do my books or my tax accountant do my taxes, that's not my strong point. The relief and gratitude I feel that it's been done right is immense. It takes a huge weight off my shoulders compared to when I was sitting there on the weekend doing QuickBooks and not really doing it right, and then having to send it to the bookkeeper who needed me to do like another 15 thing. It's such a relief. I use Bench, and they're not paying me to say that or anything. I send it out to them. They do it, and it's done. It's such a blessing. There is a real person there that I can talk to if I have problems. But I think if you look at your business that way, how can you provide relief to people? Because everybody is so stressed out right now. They really are. They're under unprecedented pressure. And if you can be this little shining beacon of light who helps them with one problem on their list of problems, you're doing a big thing. You're bringing them peace so that they can spread good to other people, like you said. And it means you're being of service, which is why we get into business anyway. A business that's only transactional, that's only for the money, won't be sustainable because you won't care about it. I don't know if I've ever really come across someone who is only motivated by money. It's just not in our DNA as human beings. We're meant to be connected to other people. So if you can look at your business through that lens, it brings a lot of meaning to it, I think.
I agree. I 100% agree. Yeah, money's important, but really enjoying the journey and I don't want this to sound too woo-woo and people, like that, but it really is a good feeling. And I'll sum it up with this. We got a call, and now it was probably 6 or 7 months ago, but I got a call from somebody that said, "Hey, Jamie, it's Saturday morning. I typically don't answer my business calls on Saturday morning, but I answered this call. Jamie, I just wanted to let you know, because of what happened, this is the first Saturday in 3 years that I'm spending with my wife and my kid on the front porch.
Aw,
And the phone rustles away, and the wife says, "Jamie, thank you for giving my husband back to me."
aw.
Like, that's pretty amazing.
That's pretty
It,
amazing. You're
and,
giving him his
and
life back, right?
that call, just a light went off. That's why I'm doing this. Like, it was pretty awesome, pretty surreal.
Oh, and absolutely. And plus, you're inspiring people with your
Yeah.
podcast. It's really, really important to be an inspiring force right now because
Mm.
people need it. They really need that dose of it every day because there's so many things that can kind of drag you down if you don't really have somewhere to go and elevate your thinking and try to focus on what you're grateful for and think about growth and opportunity rather than COVID-19 or the things that we all know are there and that are really stressing us all out. But if you can think about the good in life and the future and possibility, that's really important. And anybody who's working toward that goal of inspiring other people and elevating them, I think is doing incredible work. And you've got such a gift for not just the creative side, but also the technological side. So it's well executed. And that has a really big impact too when people can hear the podcast, right? And it's not.
Yeah. Well, I have to say one of the biggest things is to say thank you to you because surrounding myself with super intelligent, kind people has been it doesn't happen too often. I wish it would happen more, but having someone like yourself to where, just maybe I have a question or you have a question. It's so wonderful to be able to say, "Oh my gosh, Elaine, thank you so much for helping me out," or something like that. And just listening to you and reading your articles, it's really helped me and a lot of, I shared all of your stuff with so many people. I just think it's fantastic. And I think that's another big contributing factor, surrounding yourselves with really good people that maybe share, a similar belief system. I think has been super helpful for the one person business.
Well, isn't that one of the hidden secrets of these businesses that it brings people into your orbit that you would have never
Mm.
met, but who you really like? Some of my closest friends are people I've met through my business.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sort of figure out where the business stops and the friendship begins. And I think part of my business is ghostwriting. And when you're a ghostwriter for somebody, you really get to know them very well. And you're really on the same team trying to make their book a success or the article a success. And so you just become good friends just by the nature of the work. I'm sure it's this case with podcasts too. And that's such a blessing because I wouldn't want to do work where I don't like the people I'm working with.
Oh, yeah.
And we've all been in those situations where maybe you like them well enough, but you're kind of like a fish out of water in that office.
Well, yeah, that little thing that's nagging. There's something back there nagging.
And so in your own business, it's just so personal because it's a one-person business. So it's naturally kind of a force field that pulls people to you that are like-minded. And then you get to meet their friends too. You make introductions. And I'm always surprised by how many of the people I know each other.
Yeah, it's wild.
It becomes great. And like, I know you do a lot of online events. Those too can be a great way to meet people. I really didn't know that much about them before COVID. I was in a few, but they can be a great way to connect with people. I've made some good friends who came to different events and then we started talking and we found we had a ton of things in common. And then you take it offline. I mean, now it's a little harder. I think
Yeah.
I met one woman at actually it's an in-person event about a year ago. We were supposed to have coffee and then, life intervened, but we kept trying to do it. And now we're finally going to have coffee in an outdoor cafe this
Oh my
week.
gosh.
I thought, oh, that's great. Because I would have never met her,
Yeah.
without these kind of networking things. And I've always been skeptical of networking. You think of it as like cheesy, people handing out business cards and stuff. But I think with entrepreneurial things, the people are genuinely interested. If they're coming out on a Tuesday night or on a Zoom call after a long day of work to talk about this, they're truly interested in it. And so you really will have a lot in common with them.
Yeah.
And so it's naturally just such a great place to connect with people that you'll truly want to stay in touch with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. For some reason, for me, social events where there's really no business point to it, I'm very shy, and I'll sit back in the corner. But if we're talking about business, I'm like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, that's fantastic. Like, like it just goes on, and it's easy for me to have a conversation that way, and that's why I think I like it. It's a lot of fun.
You have something in common, whereas if it's like, a neighborhood barbecue,
yeah,
common is you live on the same street or something like that, but maybe not that much more than vacation. That's so interesting. So what's next for your business? I actually have to contact you because I think it's time for another article.
Hey, all right. Yeah. Well, you just took this question right out of my mouth. I was going to ask you what you have coming up next. But what's next for our business, I'll go ahead and answer that, is we since COVID came, we kind of turned our whole company around. We launched a new category, created a brand new process, created a new onboarding model for our clients. Everything switched. That book by Jeffrey Green called Crossing the Chasm?
I haven't read it, but I know the title.
Yeah, like it's got this little graph that kind of goes up like a camel hump, and then 2.5% of the population are the innovators. The creators. They start their own companies, the new thing. And you and me, that 2.5%, we create something. Then it goes into your kind of like the sphere of influence that you have, and like I could come up with a product or a service, and I'll reach out to my good buddies and I'll say, hey, yep, I'll buy it, whatever you have. I know it's going to be good for me. You barely don't even have to tell them what it is sometimes. Like that's your close little sphere of influence. But then there's that gap to go into the early market, the early mainstream market, which is about 34% of the population. And that chasm, he calls it that chasm, crossing over from your sphere of influence, the early adopters, to the mainstream, initial mainstream people. That's a tough jump. Starting to get people you don't know to buy your product or your service.
Oh yeah, once you go beyond your mom and your friends.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's a leap. But what I've realized is since March, we experienced COVID. April it really hit. Since about that time frame to now, we experienced what I believe to be that chasm in the remote industry. And so because before that, I've talked to many people that I've talked to a year or 2 or 3 years ago that said remote work will never work. Now they're coming back saying, you know what, it actually does work. And it's the future workplace, based on a lot of feedback I get, it's going to be a hybrid model, part working in and part working remote. And I think that chasm has been the last 4, 5, 6 months of people having to learn Zoom and learn how to work from home and coming up with the systems and the processes and things like that. And I think now that we've crossed that chasm, we're coming on the other side of it. There's so many people now that have the WFH program, processes and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of that. You asked what I've been up to. That's what we've done. We've kind of followed along with that and kind of refocused, I guess, kind of created a new message around the awareness of working from home.
It's so great, isn't it? Well, I think this is going to be the new area for diversity and inclusion, because people need to work in different ways to suit their life. And one of the things that, for instance, with women in the workplace, one of the challenges a lot of women have faced is, school schedules are inconvenient as far as if you're working an hour away and need to be in an office. You have to put so many systems in place just to make sure your children are safe and where they're supposed to be. And this crisis, I think, has made people aware of caregivers and all the responsibilities that they have. And the solution is remote work for a lot of people, but it wasn't allowed in many companies until recently. So hopefully that will stick. But there's also people with health issues. One of the biggest areas of freelancing is among people with disabilities. A lot of people need control over where they work, or maybe don't want to work all the time because they've got to manage a health condition or someone else's health condition in their house. And so remote work is such a beautiful solution for that. And now that we all know that it does work, then it comes down to really comfort levels, right? Some managers like to be in the office cracking the whip, and they're power based. I think it's like they like to have the troops around them. But is that worth excluding so many people from the workplace? And I think the hybrid model allows for both, because people are very varied and people like to work in different ways. And the more organizations can say, we allow for all different ways of working, I think the more diverse their workforce is going to be, just without even making many efforts on that front. It will just become much more welcoming to a lot of people who have felt like they can't do a traditional job.
I couldn't agree with you more.
But in the meantime, there's also a lot of businesses that, one-person businesses that you could serve too, that are going to scale because they've become newly relevant. They were so nimble the whole time. They've been working remotely forever. Very few of them are in-person businesses, so they've nailed it, just like your business has nailed it. But even the smallest freelance business has nailed it.
Yeah.
They didn't slow down. I was researching an article about that, and the vast majority of freelancers are not losing business right now. They're doing just as well or even better because they didn't miss a beat. And so I think big companies are saying, we want to use more contractors and freelancers, and they feel good about it. And so that means more lucrative work for the freelancers. It's more steady work. Sometimes it means you're going to get paid. These are not fly-by-night clients. So there's a lot of opportunity right now. And the fact that you're enabling that is wonderful, because you were an early adopter. You've already nailed down all the different ways of doing this, and you could save people the learning curve, which can take time. And we've all experimented with different technologies or even different systems, workflows, things that they seem kind of mundane until you get them wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then they make your life a nightmare.
Oops.
And to have someone who can just say, just do it this way, and just save you all the time of experimenting with 7 different ways is a blessing. It's amazing.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what's next for you?
Well, I'm in the thick now of writing Tiny Business, Big Money. And what this book looks at is the next stage beyond the $1 million one-person business. It looks at high revenue businesses that have started adding employees, maybe because they were in a business that they could not run without employees, or because they've grown. So Emily Tryon is a beauty entrepreneur. She was a nurse who then started a Medi Spa, where they do Botox and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
And she's a nurse, so she does all the applications herself. She had a single chair salon, but she needed a receptionist. So when people came to the salon, there was someone to attend to them. So that's the kind of business that's hard. You could do it as a one person, but it really made sense business wise to have somebody. But she's not the same as a 50-person business. She may someday be a 50-person business, but she isn't right now. And so it's like, how do you build a team when it's just 3 people? And how do you build a culture, and how do you make it a great place to work? Because the people that work for you maybe could go work for a bigger company. So what is it about your company that will make them want to stay? And they have so many different hacks and strategies, for doing things efficiently, because they still are really operated on the owner's resources. That's the difference. And the other thing I noticed is the majority of them are really lifestyle businesses, in that I don't mean that they're so small that the person doesn't care about growing them, but the person values their lifestyle. They don't want to wake up in an airport lounge 30 years from now, feel like they built a 200-person company, but they missed out on everything in life. And so it's looking at that. How do they preserve that as they start getting to that next level?
Yeah.
And not lose all the joys of the one-person business when it's now a 2-person, or it could be a team of extended contractors, but it's functioning more like their employees.
Yeah.
As it's different as you start adding people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's tough to let go sometimes, but we have to get out of our own way if we still want to try and have fun and maintain a quality of life and build something that we just really love.
Yeah, it takes some thinking. I think talking with other entrepreneurs is really helpful. When I was updating the $1 million one-person business, that's what I found when people started having those growing pains of, I added a person and now whatever happened, right? They would talk to their friends, and they'd find out how other very small companies were handling it. Because it's not like you just throw HR at the problem, right? Because you don't have HR. And a lot of these companies don't want to be the usual business. They're creating their own business models. It's not like you just copy the Chick-fil-A or something. You got to come up with your own version of doing this to preserve the lifestyle. So what does that look like? And it's very interesting. There's a lot of digital technology involved with keeping your lifestyle going. And I'm having fun with it. Of course, writing a book it takes discipline. And it was funny because I last weekend I was really working on it all weekend, and I decided I had to have a canoeing break, and it's something I really don't do it often. But in the middle of all this, I got my kids together and we went canoeing, and it was nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I think with any big project, you have to give yourself little rewards, or you'll never get it done. And
so, how many words are you into your?
Oh, that's a good. I don't know. I haven't counted. I'm not that deep into it. I'm up to chapter 2 right now.
Okay.
And when you're working on a book, it's probably similar to a business. Like sometimes you're working on a couple of things simultaneously, like I'm moving information back and forth between the two.
There's Steve. Awesome content.
Steve is a real innovator in terms of his business model too. Actually, he's a service business, and he does ocean audit, which is it audits ocean shipping bills. So, for instance, if Macy's were to order 10,000 shirts from overseas and the shipping company makes a mistake on billing Macy's, he goes through the bills and finds the mistake. And then he goes to Macy's and says, you have a $250,000 mistake on this bill. Do you want me to tell you what it is and collect it? And of course they say yes. And then he says, 50% commission.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of numbers like you. They scare me to death, but something like that would motivate you. He said, I love you guys. Thanks for the kind words.
You know what I love about that? Because he has a service business. And one of the interesting things he said that really opened my eyes was he could have charged by the hour, right? But if he saves the company $250,000 in an hour, then what hourly rate could he charge that would jibe with that?
Yeah, so, it wouldn't make sense for $500 an hour. It's not enough.
No. So he really rethought how his industry was charging for its services. The other thing I loved was Steve worked in that field his whole career, and he tapped into what he learned in corporate America and was so good at it and so knowledgeable. It was really a no-brainer for him to get into it. And there's so many people just like Steve out there who did something for years in their company and it's second nature to them, but other people don't know how to do it. And that's often the best way to start a business. And he's so good at it. And after many years of working, he's so efficient. He's so well connected. He has all these great relationships throughout his whole career. Those are all big assets for people. His name popped up with OK Boomer TV. He has this LinkedIn TV show that he started. And I think there are a lot of people that are in the baby boom generation that get discouraged with starting businesses because they've experienced age discrimination in the workplace and they lose their sense of self-worth. But the thing is, they have tremendous value and knowledge. And if you just unlearn that and refuse to believe it and just find a way to monetize your knowledge, you can do really, really well with it. And Steve inspires so many people.
Well, he just came up with a new business concept for us. He says that Bottleneck, you can do the same with virtual administration, virtual admins, survey the invoices of pros being billed by other VAs.
That's interesting. Well, by other agencies, that could be substantial. That's your next line of business, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Well, out of respect for your time, I want to. How do people get in touch with you, or where would they go to learn more about you, read your articles, buy your books? Where would they go?
Well, they can go to my name on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. I do write back if you write to me. The book, The $1 Million One-Person Business, is on Amazon, and you can find the book there. And of course, I have my website, ElainePofeldt.com. You can also send me a message there. So please keep in touch. I love hearing from entrepreneurs. It makes me a better journalist if I know what's on your mind. And I love hearing all the stories that people pitch me. I'm sorry I can't cover all of them, but you never know, right? It's always worth pitching and seeing where things will go.
Yeah, and I have to say, Elaine, you are incredibly gifted and talented when it comes to writing,
Oh,
and I just thank you so much for the relationship we've been able to build over the past couple of years. And if there's ever anything I can do, please let me know. I would love to support you in any way, shape, or form. And I share what you do all the time because
oh,
it's
thank you.
you have a great way of pulling out, extracting information that I think a lot of people can identify with and relate to and learn from. So it's just a blessing to know you, and thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm definitely going to follow up with you on this next story.
It's exciting.
When someone has a great story, it's the stories may seem like they write themselves, but that's because I'm very selective about what I write about. So it really does help. And I can only imagine all the lessons that you've had since the last time we talked about growing your business. And we didn't even get into some of the stuff about how you built online reviews and your reputation and digital search engines. So more to
Oh,
come in the next story, I guess, right?
oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap?
No, this was great, Jamie. Thank you so much for bringing us together. I love the work that you're doing. You are really such a voice of positivity and just so entrepreneurial. I always love hearing what you've been up to. So thank you so much, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help you as well.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Elaine. Is there any way you can hold on for like 30 seconds and I'll wrap?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll just wrap really quick. And I just want to say a special, huge shout out to Elaine Pofeldt for joining us today. If you get an opportunity, you can go learn more about Elaine at Elaine Pofeldt, and that's POFELDT.com. You can also learn more by going to the $1,000,000 onepersonbusiness.com. You can find her book on Amazon. You can also connect with her on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, all the social media channels there. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Elaine for joining us today. It's been a privilege and an honor getting to know her. And I just want to have one more thing to say. Make sure that you guys create your own ripple, guys and gals. Create your own ripple, and we'll talk to you soon.